Good morning. My name is Chris Fox, and man, it's been a while. I felt like a video was overdue. Enough of you are emailing me and saying, Chris, are you still alive? That I feel obligated to drop something here. I wanted to talk in this video about why I've stopped posting on this channel and what my plans are going forward. I have a couple of more, I think, very relevant videos in the near future for you guys. I'm finishing up Shattered Gods so I can write the ending of a fantasy series, and there's some lessons I've learned along the way that maybe are useful to you guys, but beyond that, there's not a lot left I have to say to writers. And for a long time, I've only been making videos here really out of guilt, and I haven't understood why. And I've been trying to figure it out. You guys have watched me with some of the recent videos try to understand why my love has been dying. And I finally do. I finally had like the light bulb moment with myself. I finally understood, and I'm going to put this in air quotes, what's wrong with me, why I am different. For a long time, some people told me that I was a narcissist, and I believed it. I went out, I researched it. I'm like, am I a narcissist? My dad's always kind of seemed sort of narcissistic, and I have those tendencies. So I started investigating that, and then I came across the concept of paranoid, clinical paranoia, and I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely have that. So, you know, for a while that seemed to fit, but it didn't quite fit everything. I went through a few different other things like OCD, and I was like, yeah, but that doesn't quite fit for these reasons. And then one day, boom, I read this book. Everything crystallized. This was like somebody had a camera in my childhood bedroom growing up and had written it all down. There were so many specific markers in this book that occurred to me at different ages where you're like, you know, he said at around this age, you're probably going to have your hat stolen and be bullied in these ways. And I was like, oh crap, I remember when they took my hat. And then he said, you're probably going to end up in the principal's office and they probably told you you'd be an excellent debater or lawyer. And I was like, well, that happened to me in 7th grade. Dozens and dozens and dozens of markers in this book showing me for the first time in my life, this is what fits. This is my particular mental setup, and that means, of course, that I am on the spectrum. Under the DSM-5, that would mean I would call myself autistic, which feels pretty weird, but is fitting when you consider the things we're going to talk about in this video, which are autistic rages and autistic burnout. So if you've been a fan of mine for any length of time and you've watched this channel, you've got to see me have multiple autistic rages where I fly off the handle. The comic sections is great. I fly off the handle about random stuff where it's like, why did that even offend you? And I tended to go off. I have outsized reactions to very innocent comments, and all of you've seen this if you've been a follower of the channel for any length of time. Like it's not something I've been shy about, and it's not only exclusively in that area. I've had that problem in lots of different places, and I started studying different historical figures who I thought they sounded like me, and it turns out I was right. Like if you look at Voltaire would be a great example. He did exactly the same thing I did, and probably was also autistic. I spent a lot of time unpacking this, devouring more resources, discovering more stuff, and talking mostly with my wife as we observe our son, because what prompted all this is my son is obviously exactly the same as me and autistic in exactly the same ways, but also has some blending from my wife, who is on the spectrum herself. The two of us have been through a process of self-discovery, and what we've learned is we have exactly the same weaknesses, and that's thrown a huge wrench in our lives. Because we are high performers, meaning we can do amazing things. But as an autistic person, I can only really do that if I have a perfect setup. So if I'm getting enough sleep and I'm working out and my mental health is in a good space and I don't have a lot of demands on my time and I perfectly structure my life, there's nothing I can't accomplish. I've done crazy stuff. I mean, crazy stuff. And you guys have seen some of it on this channel over the years where it's like, I wrote 20,000 words today. Like, I've done nutso stuff, but only when I have that setup. If you give birth to a child like I did in December of 2019, all of a sudden you have to do a whole bunch of executive functioning, not just for you, but for the child. And neither my wife and I were up to that task. I mean, both of us have done the best that we can, and Kalen is very, very happy. We put everything we had into him and to making his life be as good as possible, but it means that we sacrifice the rest of it. Both of us kind of gave up our respective careers and our social lives. We don't really talk to anybody. My social group has shrank down to probably 3 good friends, my wife and my son. There you go, that's it. There are a few other people that I talk to, but that's all of it. I don't talk to really anybody in the author community except for probably Brian Cohen, maybe. I don't have a lot of long-term relationships. And that's not to say I'm not still friends with these people. Every once in a while we'll connect. But a lot of them, I think, are also on the spectrum where they have exactly the same autistic burnout that I do. And that's kind of the crux of this video now that I've brought it up. We've talked about burnout many times and all my strategies to recover from burnout, but unfortunately, autistic burnout is different, at least according to the literature I've read. Autistic burnout is much more permanent. It's like the rubber on a tire. Once that rubber's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. I'm not sure how much I believe that, and some of my research going forward is going to be about combating autistic burnout. I think that if you can find a new special interest, you can easily climb right back out of it. And for those that don't know, one of the hallmarks of most autistic people, not just Asperger's, is a special interest, something that we have to know better than anyone else in the world. And that's my entire life. For a while, that was programming, and then it became writing, and it's shifted. It became woodworking for a while. It's always been role-playing, D&D, and similar games. I've always had some hyper-fixated special interests that I can usually monetize, which is why I can do such crazy things. Like YouTube was it for a while, where it's like, I'm having a lot of fun making these videos. It's my special interest. That's great, but it only works until you've exhausted the hobby and learned everything there is to learn, and then I start to lose interest. And if on top of that, I also have a lot of negative things occurring, like all the social things I can't really understand, so I made all sorts of huge social faux pas and then paid prices as I pissed people off and couldn't really understand why. Like, I know you're angry, and you're probably right to be angry, and I probably did something to piss you off really badly, but I don't know what it is. And I don't know how to fix it. I ran into a lot of those situations over the years. And the very last one of those came in 2019 when my wife was pregnant. About, gosh, I'm going to say 4 or 5 months before the last NINC that I went to. I pissed off some very high profile authors. And again, probably had every right to be upset. But I didn't really understand what I had done wrong. Wasn't really understanding their arguments. And I just bailed. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with the author community. It's not worth my mental health hit. And I've been retreating ever since. I am less and less and less and less engaged. That process has not slowed down at any point. My release of novels has been slower and slower and slower. I still spend a fair amount of time managing my backlist and making money, but I don't talk to people, and I don't really need to talk to people. Like, why would I? I just sell my books and play with my son. I am spending a lot of time creating these days, but different things. A lot of it is running role-playing games. I have a second channel where I have a ton of videos for things like Battletech and Warhammer and Shadowrun. I have been autistically polishing for months, and I've been afraid to start that channel because I understand the demands of a channel once it gets started. Like, it never, ever stops. So I want to make sure I've got like 25 videos in the pipe before I start that one. And as of today, I think I have 14. Anyway, it's been tremendous fun making and editing those videos. Definitely a special interest in that regard. And I know I'm wandering far afield, and I may not really have adequately explained why I think I have Asperger's, why I think I'm on the spectrum. That could be a very, very long discussion. It probably will be in the comments if people start asking questions. I haven't been officially diagnosed, and I don't ever plan to, because after I was kidnapped, one of the very first things they did is put us in with mental health professionals, and I saw very quickly, wow, these people are not very smart, and if I just say what they want me to say, they'll leave me alone. And if you are a mental health professional, I'm not trying to insult you, and unless you know the DSM-5 and the DSM-4 very, very well, and you've read a lot on autism, I probably know more than you do, and I would hazard that most autistic people probably do. That's how a special interest works. I wake up thinking about it, I do it all day, and then I go to bed excited about doing it the next day. One of the reasons why I'll disappear with things like World of Warcraft is that's an easy special interest. You can play it all day long, and it will still be your special interest the next day, and you can just indulge. And that's usually what the people I know that are on the spectrum do to recharge. We go indulge in our special interest, and we try to get away from the stresses of the normal world and all these masks that we have to wear and rituals we don't understand but have to do. That's really hard for us, but vanishing into a special interest will fix it. I don't want to spend the rest of my life playing mass multiplayer games, though. I want to create. I want to make more stories, and I want to build more things. And so I've been doing that, but in a way where I don't have a huge camera showing the entire world what I'm doing and allowing them to judge it. One of the huge mistakes that I made being autistic is I don't understand how people work. So On the way up, when you are getting famous, when you are learning a new skill, when you are the underdog, everybody loves you. Once you get to the top, everybody wants to tear you down. And when that switch occurred for me, which I'd say probably happened in late 2016, maybe 2017 at some point, I was completely unprepared for that. I'm like, all I've done is help people and share my journey, and now all these people dislike me, and the faction that dislikes me continues to grow, and they say absolutely heinous things about me all over the place that I hang out, and that's why I don't hang out online anymore. You can only see Chris Fox as a stain on the author community so many times before you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I really don't. And that's where I'm at. So sure, I could make videos, but like, how does that benefit me? How does it benefit my son? How does that help build a future for him? I should do the things that I'm excited about that make money, and that's where I'm focused now. So this channel is somewhat of a relic, but it's meant to be polished up and kept for eternity. I want to go through here, make sure every writer video that is useful is added if it doesn't exist, and they're all organized in a way that new writers can find the channel and learn what they need to know. That was my goal all along, and it's almost done. Like, I don't have too much more I can add, but I will. And if there was more I thought I could add, I would do so, but like, I don't want to make content every Friday just to make content. I want to make content I'm excited about, and I like being able to take my time. One of the videos that I made on the other channel, it took me 23 hours to finish that video. The average video on this channel is like 40 minutes of my time. I really took my time doing the graphics and the transitions, and I love that stuff. It's so much fun polishing it up in flow state at the edge of my abilities and getting better. And that's not something I can do being a pulp writer and putting out a book a month and trying to unlock the latest marketing secrets. And unplugging from all that stuff was the best thing I could have done for my mental health. I'm still recharging. I am still very much in the midst of autistic burnout, but I'm starting to enjoy creating again because I'm separating that from what I have to do for a living. And I'm starting to look at other ways to make money. I'll always have my backlist, which is always going to make great money for my whole life. But what other things do I want to do to make money that are fun and scalable in a safe way for my mental health? And that's the rest of my life. I may never be able to buy a house, but I will never be poor, and I'll never be homeless, and I'll never have to worry too much about money. So it's a pretty enviable spot to be in, and I'm very grateful for that. Like, we have enough resources. I worked hard enough for enough years that I can live like this and only pursue things I want to pursue, which is great because as an autistic person, you wrestle with mental health issues. You're driven by demons constantly. You always feel like you don't fit in. That is something that I don't want to go back to. And like, I could go get into politics, or I could go like find some other avenue and rise to the top and become one of the big players in the space. I know how to do that, and I'm competitive and I enjoy it, but like, it's not worth it. It's not worth the cost when you get there and you don't enjoy your life day to day and you can't spend time with your son and watch him grow up. I've spent so much time with Kalen. Every single day I get to spend between 6 and 12 hours with him. That's nuts. Like, I get to spend a ton of time with my son, and I never missed anything important in his life. You better believe I was at Dad's and Donuts Day last week. It's so much fun to watch him grow. And, you know, I'm proud. I'm hesitant to say this. I know it sounds braggy, but I don't care. It's my son. I get to brag. He's smarter than I am, and I'm really smart. When I was 16 in Syracuse, New York, I sat down in front of a tribunal and took an IQ test, and the answer came back genius. He's smarter than I am. This kid just turned 4, so he's not like almost 5. He just turned 4. He's doing multiplication. He's doing division. He's reading. Like, I see that this kid is smarter than me, and if his mother and I spend as much of our time as we can nurturing him and making sure he has all the resources I didn't have, who knows what this kid could accomplish. Caleb could get us to Mars, or he could do nothing at all. I don't care. Whatever makes him happy in the future, but I want to make sure he has the tools that he needs, and that's all I care about. I don't really care about anything else in my life. Like, I'm not trying to make a big mark. I don't have anything to prove to anybody anymore. I made great money. I accomplished some crazy stuff. I made millions of dollars selling books. I got to see my books in the top 100 of all time. I can call myself a multiple best-selling author. Like, I have all sorts of fun stuff. I flew all over the country and got invited all over the world to speak. Like, I got to do a lot of fun stuff, and I'm grateful for that, but At this stage in autistic burnout, I can't ever imagine wanting to travel again, not even to see family. Like the idea of getting on a plane and flying to Atlanta to see my mom is terrifying. I don't ever want to get on a plane again. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I never want to go to another conference. I just want to chill with my family, chill in my garage, play my games, and have my nice little life and leave all the glory to those that are young and hungry for it. God bless all of you, and I hope you guys are as successful as you want to be. But for me, this is where I'm at. So I'm going to keep making my little gaming channel, and I'm going to keep doing my little side projects, and I'm going to keep writing some novels. I'm going to mostly fly under the radar. I do have new stuff on the way. If you're a fan of my fiction, I'm not abandoning you guys. And when you get your hands on Woodworkers Must Die, I think you're going to highly approve. This is the funniest book I've ever written. Basically, I took the Dark Lord Bert as a template and said, how can I crank that up 10x? And that's what I've been doing. So hopefully you guys will like that. It's based on the D&D campaign that I ran. And for the first time, I'm giving it the proper amount of time to write that book. So I hope you guys are doing well. I apologize if this video is too heavy, but I needed you to know where I am and what I'm doing and what's going on. I know some of you have been worried. Please don't worry. I'm doing great. I need to find more ways to make money if I ever hope to buy a house. So like that might be a drive for me going forward, but I promise you that's not going to be made selling novels. It's not worth the sacrifices, the cutting off the pieces of my soul I feel like I have to do that. So anyway, I'm going to get back to, in today's case, the writing, but in most cases it's video editing or some other hobby, hiking, woodworking, other stuff that I am working on. But I will see you guys in the future. I do have an upcoming video coming pretty soon here talking about the end of Shattered Gods, the lessons I learned along the way, and the stuff I wish I'd known going in. Like I definitely made some mistakes and learned lessons. It's so much easier to write the last book in a series where I'm like, oh, now I know what I need to do. And it could have been useful for book 2 through 6. I just didn't know. And now I know a lot better how to structure the segues between novels. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that in another video. Hope you guys are doing great. I'm going to get back to the writing.